It has been a terrible past couple days for Kamala. I like that name. That one has stuck with me at least. Kamala's had a bad last couple of days. Disastrous, I would say. And I'm going to show you what triggered my kind of assessment that this is not good if you support her. Obviously, indirectly, that helps Trump. I'm going to show you what Trump's been terrible on X. Elon Musk retweeted a meme using the word Twitter. Everybody's making fun of him. He doesn't care what, I mean, X is what it is, so you can make fun of him all you want. But on X, Trump has been terrible since he returned. He's been doing lame political ads, and his attacks on Kamala have been terrible, awful. He's been bad on True Social too, so I think he's just bad at social media now. He used to be a beast. He used to post real short stuff and funny stuff, and that's how a master does it. Now he's not that anymore. There are people who do it well now that are next level. He's not that one, but he had his best series. I'm gonna show you just a touch of it on a very serious topic. His best series of tweets. How much do tweets affect an election? I don't know, but this is that's where kind of the whole boiling pot is on Twitter. There's no one. I would say 99% of the people who are politically active in our country are on Twitter. Is what I think, maybe not 99, but a lot are politically active, and that's where everything bubbles up, and then it will spill out beyond Twitter to a certain extent to certain normies. So let's just say it's bubbling up on Twitter, and it came from this tweet here. It was a very bad, unforced error. It's funny, these topics are all linking together. I just did the take on Anna Paulina Luna, and I said, we are a clown nation. We are in clown world. If you think I'm going to support, I don't care how she votes. I could program ChatGPT to vote for me. Should ChatGPT be in Congress? You are out of your mind if you think I'm going to support Anna Paulina Luna as one of the people to choose whether we go to war or not. There are some women that I hold in high regard, Jen Perlman, Carrie Lake. Anna Paulina Luna is not one of them. And the bigger picture of this is just in general. To run for president is to run for commander-in-chief. That's what that means. You run and you are they don't even vote on war anymore, really, but you are literally the commander-in-chief. Congress, they just vote on whether you should go to war. They should be voting on it at least. The commander-in-chief actually moves the risk pieces or should be the one controlling that. So it takes a certain presence. It takes a certain level of respect that you can't buy. I don't care who's behind Kamala's weird rise. Nobody likes her. She came out of the blue. No one's liked her. The blacks don't even like her. Go ask the blacks about her. They don't even like her. She was asked on, and I'm just going off the cuff here. I got a little bit of time, so I'll be all over the place. But I'm going to go to the tweet in a second. But she was asked in the interview, are you black? Basically, the question was, are you black? She said, next question. The blacks are just completely lighting her up, worse than they did Biden, pretty much. But let me find the tweet here. I saw it yesterday, and I think it might have came out Friday, but let me look at the timeline. Just as bad of a tweet as you could do, and here it is right here. I retweeted a couple of the quote tweets. Donald Trump, best use here. But here's where Kamala Harris, I'm going to go through this and then give the context just in case you don't know as to why this was that bad. Kamala Harris tweets or posts on X, this is the 31st, so this was yesterday at 10 a.m., 10:14 a.m., 71 million views on this. And it's not 71 million good views. This is Donald Trump finally using Twitter and his 90 million followers, who at least half of them are probably supporters, to just completely expose a tweet that I have to think they were considering deleting this. I don't delete any of my tweets other than typos, but they probably had to consider that. I don't know if they're allowed to because it's official Kamala Harris, but it's not her election campaign one. She says, as vice president, I had the privilege of visiting Arlington National Cemetery several times. It's a solemn place a place where we come together to honor American heroes who have made the ultimate sacrifice in service of this nation. That statement is fine. And really, that should have been the end of the statement. I'm going to read more of it, but she's replying in response to Trump getting invited, and maybe I can give some context to that because the neocon one, but Tom Cotton was right here. The neocon one, Tom Cotton was on Meet the Press, and they all have their talking points on it, but I will agree with the talking point sometimes. They had the talking point to try to get Tom Cotton in a gotcha. Like they're saying Donald Trump went to the anniversary of the fallen soldiers in Afghanistan. Remember that the debacle right after Biden came into office, Kamala came into office. Right after that debacle, 13 died just because of just pure chaos and incompetence. So here's how they try to trip Tom Cotton up, and I'll come back to the comma post.
No, I guess, Senator, is it ever appropriate to make campaign content at military grave sites?
He didn't take campaign photos there. These families, Gold Star families, whose children died because of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's incompetence, invited him to the cemetery. And they asked him to take those photos because, as they told me yesterday, when I spoke to Kelly Barnett and Darren Hoover, the parents of Taylor Hoover, who has Arkansas ties, they don't get to go to the beach on Labor Day. They don't get to have barbecues. This is their one chance to have a memory of their children, to commemorate their service and to honor their sacrifice. They wanted President Trump there. They wanted to take those photos. You know who the families also invited? Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Where were they? Joe Biden was sitting at a beach. Kamala Harris was sitting at her mansion in Washington, D.C. She was 4 miles away. 10 minutes. She could have gone to the cemetery and honored the sacrifice of those young men and women. But she hasn't. She never has spoken to them or taken a meeting with them.
Well, they did meet with them during the dignified transfer.
Because of
they were with them at the dignified transfer.
Her and Joe Biden's incompetence, those 13 Americans were killed in Afghanistan.
Ooh, this is not good. This is not good for Kamala. And it brings in the whole Tim Walz stolen valor back into play now, because that has never really been connected to her. This is a disaster. Why? Why is this a disaster? Before I go on and read more on this, it's what I talked about with women and being commander in chief. That's even another level above voting for men and women in war. Imagine you're in a football locker room. Imagine you're in a basketball locker room. Imagine if you're a tennis player. I used to play tennis. We didn't have a female tennis coach. And I guess in theory, out of 1,000 tennis coaches, maybe you could have a female one teaching the men. Maybe you could, and they would be great at it. Or a 1 out of 100 or something like that. But the percentage would be lower. And the men looking at the commander in chief, you can't buy respect. So we know that something is mentally wrong with her. She's just completely off. She's almost worse than Biden when she speaks. So there's no respect. People respect the powers that elevated her. But when she's in front of the Joint Chiefs or whoever, anyone in the military, none of them will respect her. You can't force that. You can't buy that. And now we're talking about voters. When you look at Kamala Harris, I'm being completely objective here. I am calling balls and strikes. If Kamala Harris had done a good job, I would have said it. She hadn't had any problems until now. The first slip up was the DNC speech. I didn't get a chance to cover it. That was the first sign. That speech was horrible. It was horrific. It was just too obvious she was trying to do an Obama empty joy kind of impersonation, and felt it would be like me. I don't do impersonations. It would be like me trying to do a Trump, trying to do a Trump impersonation. You're like, bro, that's not what you do. Don't do that. So they tried to put her into this Obama thing where it's joy and hope, and she doesn't exude that. And people, the thing that people don't know about her is substance. Obama is really smart. He was a constitutional lawyer. So nobody looked at Obama, even though he got fast-tracked, like maybe at a corporate job, any job, you get fast-tracked and people look at you like, whoever it is, like, did you really deserve that? Obama got fast-tracked, but nobody made the argument that Obama was stupid. No one says that. I've never heard anybody say that. Wouldn't even make any sense. The problem with Kamala is, so you can't put the Obama template on her, because the problem with her is we think she's stupid or inebriated or something else. We don't know what's going on, so we're guessing. So she has to address kind of that part of it. We don't need her. The joy is just her stupid laughter. She doesn't need to sell that. So the speech fell flat. I mean, the DNC wasn't even that bad. I think the RNC probably, I don't know. The DNC wasn't that bad. The RNC was better because it had much better talent, much better bench strength. Gretchen Whitmer was awful. So the DNC wasn't terrible, but it wasn't good either. But they did have good momentum leading up to the Kamala speech. Then they lied about Beyonce coming, and I watched in part to see the circus. And so Kamala came on, everybody's waiting, and you could feel the room get deflated because she wasn't. We had heard Michelle Obama, as problematic as the Obamas are, their speeches were unbelievable. Michelle Obama was just flawless. I mean, she was just flawless in her speech. She was better than Barack. Barack was good too. I mean, you might think I'm crazy here. Hillary wasn't bad either. Not that I agree with the content. I'm just talking about the delivery. Hillary had a good moment. AOC had a good moment. So all those people, that was basically it for the DNC. That was it. Everybody else was terrible. All the young ones, they're supposed to have all these Gen Z. They were terrible. They were awful. AOC was really good. AOC's speech was really good. Tim Walz was good. Tim Walz was a good moment. A lot of heart in that with his son there. So AOC, Tim Walz, Hillary was good. Bill was awful. I wish I had more time to cover all these more in depth. So you see, but going up into it, Michelle Obama was Oprah wasn't as good as I thought she was going to be. She was not good. Michelle Obama was good. Barack Obama was good. It was good momentum overall leading up to Kamala. Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton is like that old Southern Dixiecrat type dude. Like, I just wish he would just drop an N-bomb on stage and just be like, okay, that's how I came from. That'd be based if he did. People said RFK called Michelle Obama N-word or something like that. I'd be like, okay, this is base. But so Bill Clinton called her Kamala the whole time, every single time. You could feel the awkwardness in the room because he's Bill Clinton. You can't really push up on him or he'll get you off, allegedly. So every time he was like, Kamala, he was trying to be nice too. He's like, Kamala. I can't even say it like how he did. It was very disrespectful. It was very off-putting. He kept saying Kamala like he's, Slick Willie. But he was terrible. But the other ones built up, and then she just deflated the room. She was, oh man, that speech was just bad. It was terrible, terrible speech. So I was like, okay, whatever. Then other stuff happened. Then she did the interview. The optics for the interview with the Tim Walz stuff, terrible. So then now we get into this stuff. Do you look at her as a commander-in-chief? Even if you are a Kamala supporter, you can't sell me that. I want to hear it from you and look you in your eyes to tell me you think that's somebody who should be like, the tanks go here, the bomb drops here. No, there's no one with any authenticity or being genuine in nature would tell me that they view her in that light. What they would say is, you got your commanders. That's problematic. That's very problematic for Kamala. Because how do you defeat, people have been talking about this, and I think it's with a nationalist focused on white working men message, just like 2016. It's focusing on a nationalist populist message, meaning attacking globalists. Does Trump even use that word anymore? Attacking globalists and saying, I'm here for you. I distribute their power to you. I'm just in the way. That's what that means. He can't say that right now because he's not attacking globalists. He hasn't even attacked Kamala Harris from that aspect. So that's the way you should do it. But there's another way here too. There's many different ways, and I didn't think about this until Kamala messed up, is the commander-in-chief. Why do you think we haven't had a woman president? Do you think a woman should run? I mean, they separate men and women in chess. We're talking about life and death. We're talking about men with guns. You turn off the electricity and turn it off for 6 months. There are no women commander-in-chiefs. That's not a thing. Turn off the electricity turn it off in your state. Turn off the electricity in your state for a year. There's no such thing as a woman commander-in-chief. Ain't gonna happen. Impossible. Men with guns run this. That's life, that's nature. Take it up with God if you have a problem with it. It's not to be disrespectful. It's just like saying guys can't give birth. That's what women do. Take it up with God if you want to change that. I don't know why you would, but go take it up with God. That's between you and him. So that to me, that's the real reason why we haven't. What if you turned on your TV and you saw the Dallas Cowboys had some woman football coach? You'd be like, what? It's a game played by 100% men. What the hell? What? Why would you have a woman football coach? There's probably thousands, millions of men that would be better in that role. So it's not to be disrespectful to women. That's just not the place of a woman to lead the most powerful military in the world. That's just not the place. And we know that. That's why we haven't had a woman president. And in part. So now how do you attack the joy and hope? Joy and hope is problematic when we know that there's war. Even your most normie of normies knows there's some type of thing going on in the Middle East, over in Eastern Europe, in Western Russia, that something's going on. When you look at Trump and you look at Kamala, just based on that, who do you pick? Obviously, 80% of people in this country, if you only based on who should lead the military, Trump wins by a landslide. So for Kamala to make this mistake, as you saw Tom Cotton brought up, wait a second. You were vice president when the tragedy happened at the airport in Kabul. This was, remember, 2021, early 2021. The tragedy happens, and it's all executive. It's all Biden's fault. There's chaos with his Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State, all of them just in complete chaos. 13 U.S. service members killed. Over 100 Afghanistanis, or whatever you call them, in flip-flops, in sandals, and hanging off of the airplane, falling from the sky. It looked like CGI. She was the vice president. It does not exude confidence to your normie. Your normie saw all that. So now we come to the anniversary of it. She wasn't even there. She wasn't there. So, and even if the families of the fallen soldiers or servicemen didn't want her to be there, what I would have told Kamala is release a statement, like try not to throw Joe under the bus, but he was on the beach. He was literally on the beach. So in some way, you have to throw him under the bus if you're going to be a female commander-in-chief. Here's the optics. Here's what happened. Joe was literally on the beach. And he couldn't have, just for that day, just not been on the beach. He could have been on the porch. I mean, these people don't care anymore. I think he's just that old guy who's like, I don't give a damn anymore. Just terrible optics. So people are, kind of throwing these videos around. Just, oh man. So you have the pictures of Trump, who was there during the anniversary. And that was the clip in the beginning of the Tom Cotton clip. It showed you Trump laying down the wreath during the anniversary. Where was Joe Biden? Joe Biden was literally on the beach. And you can see it. People posted the photos to contrast the two. So if you're Kamala Harris, I don't think you have any choice. I think you have to distance yourself from Joe. I don't think you have any choice. And I would tell Joe, if you want to go hands-free, we can go hands-free. I think that would help Kamala. Now, I think Joe knows where some of the bodies are buried, or where Kamala might have had her body, or he probably has some type of thing on her. But I mean, if you're running, you got to just deal with that. So I think Kamala Harris played it wrong. That's why she did this tweet. That I'm going to go back to it, but that's why she did that tweet, is because she knew it was wrong. Biden has been on the beach for, at least from what I've seen, basically 16 straight days. During the ceremony, the anniversary, Joe Biden, to my knowledge, somebody correct me, I'll look this up real quick. To me, I think he was literally on the beach while that was going on. That's not good. So now Kamala's wrapped up into it. There's Joe Biden showing Joe Biden at the beach. So now Kamala's got to be like, Kamala's like, ooh, that's why she did this tweet. So if you want to know why this unforced error happened, it's because this is not looking good. Twitter is actually a safe platform to make a statement. All she had to do was make a very small, clean, innocuous statement. Really, she should have tried to go and have them turn her away. But even if she didn't, she should have started it off with the part that I read. Like, I have a lot of respect, all that stuff for, she doesn't really mean it, but all that stuff for people who made the ultimate sacrifice. No. See, what's happened here is Kamala's account, her Kamala HQ account, they've been going full informational warfare. Just straight up lying. Straight up, no equivocation. I'm not trying to be partisan, just straight up lying. And nobody's really effectively countered that account because you need a large following. Trump's probably one of the only people right now that could counter it. And he hasn't. He did that on the regular Kamala account. I don't know what the strategy is there. But they're just straight up lying. So here she goes. She goes ahead and lies. She says it's not a place for politics. Kamala and Joe Biden had taken pictures there before. What do you mean it's not a place for politics? What she really means it's not a place for your politics. That's what she's trying to say here. But she stepped in it. Trying to be a little bit too aggressive. Sometimes you let things go. I might have time to get to, I want to talk about Kamala. I want to talk about potentially Tim Pool, the JQ's coming up again. And that the reason I'm thinking about that is you don't have to comment on everything. Sometimes you can let something go, and Tim knows that better than anyone, but everybody makes mistakes. Kamala shouldn't have commented here. So she went deeper. She said, yet, as was reported this week, Donald Trump's team chose to film a video there. So what? Nobody's ever filmed a political video there? Resulting in an altercation with cemetery staff. Some woke idiot tried to stop them from doing what a lot of people have done in the past. Over partisan, the same type of thing that we're seeing with, oh, are you MAGA? Oh, it's illegal for you. Oh, are you a black? No, it's not illegal for you. I mean, it's like, and Nick talked about this in the stream with Jake Shields that was just unbelievably good. And he was just talking about, and Jake Shields actually brought it up. He was like, this is what the prosecutor, I don't know if he might have been talking about Gaston, not Gaston, whatever his name is, or Boudin. I forgot which one he's talking about. I don't think he even named him. But California, basically, if a black did it, then, just let him off the hook. And then that just turns everything into chaos. It doesn't help anything. That's the same thing here. If Joe Biden wants to take a video, cemetery staff isn't going to try to assault them or contact or kind of impede them. But if Trump's there, they know the optics look bad for them. They know nobody views Kamala as a commander-in-chief. And then you look at Trump, and he looks like a boss. I've never questioned that. I don't think anybody's ever questioned that. Who's ever questioned whether, not in a serious or in a manner to be respected, that Donald Trump looks like a boss, acts like a boss, plays the part, plays the role, looks like a president, looks like a commander-in-chief. I understand the bone spurs is problematic. I've talked about that. I'm just talking about the look. That's really kind of what matters here. They both have problems. So he has the look, and they see it, they're like, damn, this is not going to look good. So cemetery staff, some Wokemon probably, I mean, I guarantee you it was a Wokemon, comes up and says, oh, you get whatever, you can't do this. And then what Trump's camp said, we didn't put no hands on anybody. They tried to get it our way. Whatever. So you know they're trying to do the double standard is what's happening here. So she's tried to say he got into an altercation with cemetery staff. I can't believe she uses her signature, let me be clear. So they have the intern use that, huh? Or it could be ChatGPT, actually. The former president disrespected sacred ground. We don't even look at you as supporting the sacred ground. So that's just, it actually is bringing highlight to who's saying this. Who's saying that he disrespected sacred? How? Who's saying this? And then now you look at, oh, Kamala said it? Knee pad Kamala? What? How? Why would I even listen to you? You see the missteps here. And then she keeps on going. She keeps on going. All for the sake of a political stunt. Oh, she would never do a political stunt. This is nothing new from Donald Trump. This is a man who has called our fallen service members suckers, all fabrications, hoax, and disparaged Medal of Honor recipients. So she's trying to take him down. Man who during a previous visit to the cemetery reportedly said of fallen service members, I don't get it, what was in it for them. I don't remember that one. I think that was a hoax too, but I don't remember that one. I remember it, but I don't remember the details of it. But that's not the point. The point is you're only hot. You don't look. This isn't an area where you're strong in. This is a man who's unable to comprehend anything other than service to himself. I think that can land a little bit, but I wouldn't do it. Not in this. I would do it. I mean, honestly, I would attack him from supporting Goldman Sachs. I mean, when he got into office, he got all the big money. You know, he purported himself to be for the people, but got in all the big hedge funds managers and all the big asset management connected people. He hired them on. Even though Kamala isn't strong there either, but I think that would be better than you can't. It's not going to resonate here. Trump is viewed as the law and order, the military type president, so that's not working. The military supports Trump. I mean, we all know that. I mean, authentically, unless if you purge them all by trying to force them to take a needle, maybe that might change a little bit. But even then, I don't think it changes. If there's one thing on which we as Americans can all agree, it's that our veterans, military family, and service members should be honored. She wasn't there. So that doesn't make any sense. Why wasn't she there? So you didn't bother to show up. Tom Cotton and others said they did invite you. It didn't even look like they invited her on some beef tip. She just didn't go. Biden didn't go to the anniversary. So the confusion with Kristen Welker was that she said that Kamala was there in the transferring of the bodies, the very, ceremonial, very tough, the casket and, the transferring the body. That's when Biden looked at the watch. Kamala wasn't there. Kristen Welker didn't realize that, so she had to they had to kind of recant that. They posted that they made a mistake. But Biden was there then. But Biden wasn't there for the anniversary that just happened. He was on the beach. Kamala wasn't there. So you can't even, why would you even highlight this? It's my belief that this is a long, talk about me talking about long posts. This is a long post to highlight an area of weakness of yours that doesn't make you look good. And it is my belief that someone who cannot meet this simple sacred duty should never again stand behind the seal of the President of the United States. That doesn't resonate, man. That's not working. I will always honor the service. That doesn't make sense. And sacrifice of all Americans' fallen heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice. I mourn them and salute them, and I will never. I forgot the best part. The post that she made. So she made it political by saying Donald Trump made it political. All she had, you know what she could have done? She could have been like, I'm not politicizing this. I'm glad Trump was able to show up. I don't know what she could have said, why she couldn't show up, but say whatever you could say. I don't know why. There's no reason, but say, I'm glad Donald Trump showed up. And I'm not politicizing this. I honor our fallen heroes. That would have been much better. So it gives room. Donald Trump finally for the first time since he's back on X, used his platform effectively, and he absolutely wrecked her. Absolute, complete annihilation on X. This is not, you couldn't have a worse situation on X than what she finds herself in now. Donald Trump coming on the top with a quote tweet, and here it is. And Donald Trump might need to do more of this because it's not even him. And I've been saying that. Donald Trump, he doesn't have his fastball anymore. He's Roger Clemens past his prime. So what he can do, though, is take his 90 million followers and highlight people who can speak for the rest of the people, not even speak for Trump. So Donald Trump, look at this, small tweet, few words, Darren Hoover, father of Staff Sergeant Taylor Hoover.
My name is Darren Hoover, and I'm the Gold Star father of United States Marine Corps Staff Sergeant Taylor Hoover. Kamala, I want you to understand, and I know it will be difficult for you because you lack empathy and basic understanding. The events that happened on August 26, 2024, with President Trump at Arlington National Cemetery were solemn and in keeping with the reverence and respect that is given to all members of our military that are buried there. We invited President Trump. We are the ones that asked for the video and the pictures to be taken at the tomb of the unknown soldier. This was a very solemn wreath laying in our son's name, along with the Sergeant Nicole G family, as well as two of our catastrophically injured military members that were there on that horrific day in the honor of our Abbey Gate 13. We then moved to the gravesite where our children are buried. Again, we asked the Trump team to take the videos, take the pictures of our time there. President Trump then laid a wreath at the graveside of Army Staff Sergeant Ryan Christian Canals. There he talked to both his mother and father. President Trump then moved to our son's grave, where we were surrounded by our family and friends, where we talked about Taylor and his sacrifice to this country. Let me be clear. There was no politics discussed, none whatsoever. There was also not an assault that we observed take place, or did we hear it? I don't know where this is coming from, but it's disgusting and gross. President Trump has been there for us from the very beginning, when our son and the other 12 of his brothers and sisters in arms were murdered due to your negligence and uncaring attitude towards our military. Don't forget, Kamala, you were the last one in the room. You and Joe Biden made the final decision on how to pull out of Afghanistan. You created the chaos and mayhem for the military to accomplish their goals. Our sons and daughters made the best of a difficult situation, as they had been trained to do. They adapted and overcame all of that and came out as heroes, something that you will never know or understand. Kamala, we have been treated with the utmost respect, compassion, and understanding by President Trump, something you and Joe Biden have refused to do since August 26, 2021. No, where were you and Joe Biden on August 26, 2024? Nowhere near Arlington Cemetery. You couldn't be bothered to be with us or even say our kids' names, just as you have done for the last 3 years. Neither one of you have called to speak with us or share in our grief. I wonder, Kamala, do you sleep at night securely in your bed? Or do you have nightmares of our kids because it was your incompetence and negligence that got our kids murdered. It is you who sends out messages on social media that are outright lies. It is you that has disrespected our families. It is you who knows nothing about service and sacrifice. It is you that has divided this country, and it is you who is unfit to be the commander-in-chief. These are the only memories we get to make with our son, and it is you who is playing politics and trying to detract from our memories made that day. You should be ashamed and embarrassed at your lack of empathy and decency as a human being. You are only in this for the power and prestige. You don't care for our military or the citizens of this country. You should hang your head in shame at your actions or lack thereof. You need to move aside, get out of the way, and stop hindering the progress, growth, and independence of this great nation.
That is one of the most devastating. There's nothing else to be said after that. That is a wrap. Woo! It's been a rough past days for Kamala. That's conversation's over. There's nothing else to be said. Brilliant use of Twitter by Trump there. Brilliant. The best use. And then take a look at his feed. He had a message from every single one of them. Let me go look at his quote feed tweet. That was just one.
My name is Coral Dulero. I am Corporal Humberto Sanchez.
Kamala, your statement is nothing more than a political spin to help you look better in your president.
Vice President Harris, my name is Steve Nakui. I'm the father of Lance Corporal Kareem M. Nakui.
Guys.
In your administration.
Guys, this is... I can't overstate how devastating this is for the Kamala campaign. It's just absolutely devastating. Mike has bad knees. Always has the best way to say it. If you're just joining the live, Mike just sums it up. Kamala Harris didn't want to return to the scene of the crime. It's that simple. That's a wrap. Forget it. The conversation's over. I don't know what... Like I say, sometimes you just don't... I mean, sometimes I get, my wife kind of gets in that mood or whatever. I'm like, okay, let me just not... That's not the time. I pick the battles, and you can say I'm kind of, like, what's his name? Jack Murphy cucked or something like that. But that's fine. But I'm going to pick my battles. And that's what Kamala should do here. Just be like, this one's an L. Take that L. Make some cornflakes with it. Put it in a blender. If you don't know what to do with something, just put it in a blender and make a smoothie with it. Just take that L. Put some protein in that bad boy and get back to the gym because I don't know how you clean that up. Just let it go. If she continues on with this, if she keeps talking about it, I mean, I think it's so devastating it could end it could end everything for her. That's how devastating. It's hard enough to overcome. That's why in her speech, she didn't mention she was a woman. She didn't mention she was a black. Because if you go that route, it discredits you as a commander-in-chief. Well, I thought you were kind of qualified to be a commander-in-chief. Why do I need to know that you're a woman and you're black? So they already know this. So just move on. Let it die down. Because now the Tim Walz stuff is back in play. The Tim Walz stuff, I said, it's all good. I mean, for me, it matters. It should matter for the country, but it doesn't. But let me show you what's happening on the Megyn Kelly show tomorrow. Now, it's online. It's not mainstream, but to me, it lands more now with like, okay, now I really don't look at you as a commander-in-chief. You just got ended. Not even on like some trash talking tip. Like from the relatives, parents of fallen soldiers tip. Like that's something you can't even, there's no retort to that. And then now they're coming back with this.
Why did you come forward?
It is morally indefensible. He didn't care. It was all about him.
He's a military impersonator.
I don't understand how he could do it morally, or he's got absolutely no integrity.
The rumor went across the state that he had quit, and it was like, who the hell does that? I mean, it was just unbelievable that a CSM abandoned his troops, 500 soldiers basically, but beyond that, there's 1,000 parents out there that expect that person to lead those people into combat.
He's a habitual liar. He lies about everything. He lies about stuff that doesn't make sense. You're taking a piece of their thunder and you're trying to capture it and put it in a bottle for yourself and use that for your own benefit.
He basically said, I've got better things to do. You know, go pick somebody else to go on a mission. Well, if you sold out your guard unit and abandoned them, I mean, what are you going to do at the national level?
Fear is a reaction. Bravery is a decision. And Walls has made the wrong decision. He's not brave. I call him a coward because he is.
That ties back, Kamala Harris, this BS on the politics on the anniversary of Kabul. And then now Tim Walz, without question, lying. No, there's no kind of debate on that. There's no, straight up lies. Now you can tie that to Kamala. Like, you're not even a commander in chief, and this is who you picked at VP. This is seriously damning. This is their campaign should be pretty much not as bad as the Access Hollywood tape, but we're getting to that because the Access Hollywood tape is just easier to digest. Everybody doesn't know about these pieces here for this. So it's not at that level. It's not like the Access Hollywood is like McDonald's. You go through drive-through, you know what the story is, and you drive out and you do what you do. This is more like you got to know a little bit more, but it's a pretty serious level of what are we doing? They got to be in the boardroom meetings and figuring it out. It's that serious. It could take down everything for them. It's that bad. Speaking of Tim Walz, we found out that through Laura Loomer, shout out to Laura Loomer. Laura Loomer is a beast. I have the utmost of respect for Laura Loomer. I think she is she's probably the best journalist that we have in this country. And she found this story out. It did blow up to the New York Post. But this is another thing that kind of hurts on them. And so this is on Tim Walz. But you see, once you get that big mistake with Kamala making it, I think it opens the door easier. It's going to be on Trump and his team. You got to tie it to Kamala. You can't just attack Tim on this. You got to tie it into Kamala, and you got to tie it into why it matters. If you can't do that, it doesn't matter. It's not effective. Jeff Walz, opposition to Tim Walz, his brother. Jeff Walz, the 67-year-old brother of Vice President candidate Tim Walz, expressed strong opposition to his brother's ideology and candidacy. Quote on Facebook, "I'm 100% opposed to all his ideology." Straight up. He's just like, I don't rock with that. I don't rock with that nig. That's what he said. This is from the New York Post. Well, this is from Laura Loomer. And credit to the New York Post. I don't know what the different writers are, but they've taken stories from her and other people and they just don't credit it. Because what you can do is, someone broke the story on X or on their own website. And then you could say, well, Julie Kelly does this sometimes too. I like Julie Kelly, but she does this too. Where she'd be like, I dug a little bit deeper and I twisted it into my own story so I didn't need to cite you. New York Post cited Laura Loomer in this article, so much respect to them. Tim Walz's brother said he's not the type of character who should be making decisions about America's future. So Kamala Harris, you don't look like a commander-in-chief. We see proof that you're not. Tim Walz, stolen valor, you don't care. You're really not commander-in-chief. And then Tim Walz's brother doesn't even look at Tim Walz as any type of serious person that should be VP. So now Kamala Harris, looks to me like you got propped up. You did whatever you needed to do. We know you understand the mission. Whatever, and it could be a missionary position. You understand where you need to be to rise the corporate ladder, no matter how incompetent you are. So you have other people making decisions for you, and they're making bad decisions. What else can you not talk about? It's not that you aren't allowed to, you just don't have the mental capacity to talk about it. What else? It just shows who's making these decisions. Were you a part of this? Did you know this? He said that they didn't even contact him. They haven't talked in 8 years, I think is what I heard. Jeff Walz indicated that he's considering publicly endorsing former President Trump I've thought long and hard about doing something like that. I'm torn between that and just keeping my family out of it because politics is so vitriolic now. Jeff and Tim haven't spoken in 8 years. Jeff also noted that his family wasn't informed about Tim's selection as VP. That's sad. I hate to see family fall out. I'm not getting into like that. And maybe that discredits Jim a little bit. Or is it Jeff? Jeff a little bit. Okay, I don't know. But it still does not look good. It's still problematic. The article provides evidence of his conservative leanings. He's a registered Republican, donated $20 to Trump's 2016. He doesn't live in his brother's state. He lives in Florida with DeSantis. He said, we've become, after Trump was indicted, it's a very soft statement. You know, everybody was saying this. We've become a third world banana republic. He criticized see, this is interesting. Jeff Walsh's brother criticized Tim Walsh in the lockdowns. Who has not? Donald Trump has not, because Donald Trump can't. See, I have a problem with that, and this is Donald Trump's going to catch a stray here, is Donald Trump says, well, I didn't mandate it on anybody. I left it up to the states. Well, if you really believe that, then why wouldn't you go after Tim Walz for having his state locked down? I don't know why. He doesn't like talking. He doesn't like bringing that up. If he really believed what he said, he would have no problem saying, I left it up to the states and you decided to lock down, you're a clown. Pledged commitment to equity as a bedrock of Marxist ideology is what this is. Jeff Walz talking about Tim. Signed legislation to protect the gender stuff. I am not in the mood right now for that conversation. So other politicians commented on this. I don't know how to pronounce her name. Nicole said, Tim Walz's own brother knows his socialist ideology. This doesn't scare anybody, but they still talk this socialist stuff is dangerous for America. Together with Kamala Harris, inflation will get higher. That is so terrible. Socialist ideology, inflation will get higher, illegal immigration. I like that conversation, but they don't even bring it up in a way that resonates. Terrible comment. Laura, I agree with her, but I don't know about the socialists. I don't like the word socialist there. Lauren Boebert says, if the mainstream media has no problem amplifying the voices of Mary Trump and the family of RFK Jr., who speak out against Republicans, and the American people deserve to hear more from Tim Walz's brother. Lauren Boebert is on point when she speaks most of the time. As long as it's not on Israel, she's pretty much on point. That's everybody in D.C. That's a good statement. She's like, RFK Jr., you prop up his family, they disagree. Mary Trump, you talk about her, what about this? It's a way to legit, like we're talking about Tim Walz's brother. Yeah, it's legit. You all talk about these family members too. So he lives in Freeport, Florida. And he previously owned a musical store called So Fine Music. I believe I used to live, that's in Minnesota. That music store is in Minnesota, I believe, because I used to live out there. I think I've been there before. And I think it's in Inverness or something like that. I'll look that up. It sounds familiar. He was an assistant principal, background in physics, so that's about it. Just not a good week. Just did end the week. Not a good week. Not a good week. Sonia says, my cousins are in the military. How are they feeling about this? Sonia says, sad. Friend of the show, Ali 004 says, my husband retired after 22 years. Military service. This is a sacrilege to lie about this stuff. I lost my husband 3 years ago. Sorry. Suddenly, but I know without a fact he'd be horrified this guy's a VP candidate. Yep. And they were trying to go after that. I'm a military vet and I'm, all that. I'm for Kamala, fake stuff. That's not going to work anymore. Sonia says, I pray for all the families. Absolutely. That should be first and foremost. Beyond all this. I'm making it political. Beyond all this nonsense. Melopi says, online is mainstream nowadays. The only remnants of the boomer generation get their news from the mainstream media, in my opinion, at least. We've had those discussions on the channel. I don't think online is really... It matters, don't get me wrong, but I use Tucker as the example all the time. I think if Tucker was on Fox News, he would have way more impact on things. Maybe it's because of the boomers. I don't know. It feels like online is just too curated. And X has gotten really, really locked down. They're not doing too many bannings. They did a banning on some people, which is terrible. But they're doing more algorithmic lockdown. Like friend of the show, Barton Bella's like, I haven't seen one of your tweets in a while. It's like, I know. Over the last, I think it's been probably a month, anything that I say on X doesn't go anywhere. They have all these things to say if you're a jerk, and I'm not really nice on X, so fine. But you should be able to decide if I'm a jerk or not. But whatever. If you're a jerk, if you talk about the JQ, it's done. They don't need to ban you. They just keep you in that silo. Or for me, pretty much a couple groypers will see my tweets, and that's about it. So I'm in an awkward. I'm not a groyper, so I'm in a really, as far as like a reach standpoint. But I don't care. But I'm not in a good place because of that. So the reason why I bring that up is online is very echoed, and they have a lot of control. Elon Musk can look at a dashboard and say, "Is this person pro-Trump? Is this person pro-Elon?" He can literally do that. Is this person extreme? How many people are extreme? What's the reach of all the extremes? Turn the dial down. He literally can do that. Every single social media site. So I think mainstream still is more powerful, more influential. Walsh is scary. Yeah, he's weird. I hate using the word weird because they were using weird, but yeah, he tries too hard. He doesn't come across. He had a good moment at the DNC, but yeah. I'm gonna go to Tim Pool and then I'm gonna be out. Jake Shields and Nick Fuentes. I said that Nick Fuentes is like Voldemort. You're not supposed to say his name. We're watching Harry Potter with the kids on the weekend, and we got through the first 3. The third one's my favorite so far. I like all of them though. And I was just watching it, and you're not Voldemort's this big bad guy, and every time somebody says his name, everybody's like, "Ooh, you're not supposed to say his name." It's really good writing by J.K. Rowling. I never read the book. I assume that's in the book. And I'm watching Nick, and then I'm watching Tucker Carlson talk about Nick and not say Nick's name. And I'm watching Dave Smith on with Andrew Schultz and the crew talking about the subject that Nick Fuentes has blown up. And we all know they're talking about Nick Fuentes in a way, and his name isn't mentioned, at least in the beginning of it. And it's like, you're almost not supposed to mention his name. I went back and I watched the old video. It's kind of cool to see like your growth path. And it came up because they're still upset that Nick Fuentes is an activist, and he upset Joe Kent, who was going to win in Washington. I believe it's the 3rd district. And he was going to win there. And out of the blue, he disavowed the Groypers. And the Groypers was like, "Bro, we can't have this. We're taking you out." Politically. And he lost in a tight race. And this is me here. This is from 2 years ago. This is from over 2 years ago, March of 2022, talking about Nick. When I just started listening to Nick. Fear and about a 23-year-old. I am fascinated by this. So it might be low, but here's I'm talking about being fascinated by all this fear over a 23-year-old. Like, what's happening? The topic is Mr. Joe Kent. Let's talk about Mr. Joe Kent. Well, the topic is actually more about a 23-year-old. I am fascinated by this. A 23-year-old young man. I mean, I think of him as a kid because I'm so old now. He's 23. He's just a really young man. Nick Fuentes is causing so much fear and anxiety across the spectrum. I'm just fascinated by this. It's like my son, wanted to play with, I think it was a scissors or something. And I was like, no, let's not do that. And that actually made him want to play with it more. It's just, so I'm just like, what the philosophies of a 23-year-old young man are making people run for the hills. The establishment, they've been running from this young man, even people who are supposedly on the populist side of things. And that just, it fascinates me. I'm still learning about him and his movement that he's been a big part of. Nick Fuentes is who I'm talking about if you're just joining, but it's fascinating. I mean, it's just, it's unbelievable, to be frank. So because this came up with, I did the video on Marjorie Taylor Greene, Herschel Walker. So Herschel Walker wasn't even associated with Nick Fuentes, and he had to separate. I don't know. Maybe he made a statement. He separated from Marjorie Taylor Greene for this conference she has coming up Saturday, and I don't know why. So I'm not going to speculate why. But it's just, if it does have to do with Fuentes, then that would be like, the dude's so powerful that if you associated with him, then I can't associate with you. So I'm like, I have to see what the philosophies are of someone this controversial, this influential. You know, Alex Jones got banned. He was the first big name that I was aware of. I'm sure there were many others. So that's just the taste of it there. That's when I first started watching Nick and thinking about it. And that is how it started. I'm like, this guy, how? How does he have this much? Why is he living in everyone's head rent-free? Why, when you bring up his name, everybody's like, oh my gosh. I'm like, what is going on, man? I've never seen anything like this. I'm just the type of dude that makes me want to, like, I need to know, can I harness that power for good? Like, how do we do this? So we flash forward, not a flashback, a flash forward. Nicholas Jace Fuentes is on an epic pod. It's highly edited, and I don't blame him. We'll get into that in a second. Just going to play a clip because it goes along with what I was saying. Jake Shields talking about stuff with Nick Fuentes.
I realized I was completely lied to, and it's just so I guess the question, I realized I was completely.
And in very short order, I started to ask the related questions, which are, why do we have to veto every resolution, even if it's against our interest? Why do we send them foreign aid? Why did we fight in Iraq? You know, and it really snowballed very quickly. And at that time, I was friends with all the Daily Wire writers. A lot of them were in Boston, where I went to school, and I knew them all. And I would ask them, you know, because you're in college, and that's actually the spirit of the right wing in politics, is open debate, the marketplace of ideas.
Fight back! Fight back! Should I meet him? Is this going to get me ostracized? How much money is this going to cost me? Or because they were so after you, they didn't just go after you, they went after anyone that associated with you. Guys lost their YouTubes for putting you on. Guys got ostracized. So they went after anyone that would even associate with you. And like, I'm like a brave, self-employed guy. And it was even in my mind, should I meet this kid? I mean, sorry, I say kid because I'm a lot older, but no offense. But it's like, but then I'm glad I did meet you because I realized I was completely lied to. And it's just, so I guess the question is, what did that feel like, being that ostracized? I believe you were 18.
Yeah, that's right. When I was 18. Well, you know, it's a very strange thing because I think a lot of us are on this journey now. You know, we're realizing that things aren't exactly as they seem. And we're all transgressing these political correctness boundaries, you know, and people are kind of stumbling around in the dark, feeling around for the truth. And I think in that process, they find out that there's these severe repercussions. And it's kind of a tricky thing because you can't really know until you do it. It's not until you put your hand on the stove do you realize it burns. And so for someone like myself, I was very young. I was 18. And I literally, it was as simple as just asking the wrong question. You know, noticing, pardon the expression, certain things, certain inconvenient things, asking the wrong question. And I was swiftly and severely punished for it at a very young age. And so for the past 6-7 years, it's been a very lonely, difficult journey. But you know, ultimately, I don't regret it. It's in a lot of ways it sucks because I've been completely ostracized, and I don't think people realize what that looks like on a day-to-day.
That's tough.
It is. It's
I wouldn't
brutal.
want it now. And at 18, I couldn't imagine how tough that would be. You know,
Jake is doing an excellent job with the interviewing. This is just excellent interviewing. I don't think that's even his forte. Some people are just natural at it. I think he's just being real, just being authentic. To get Nick to talk about, I've never heard Nick say that before. Maybe I haven't heard all his interviews, but I've never heard him say nobody knows how lonely that feels. I never heard him say it in that way before. Just a great start to the interview. It started, if you listen to the Rumble, they cut off a little bit. I think they cut it off so they didn't have Nick's name on the YouTube.
I'm 45, but 18, being ostracized from society, that's just brutal.
Yeah,
but that was brave of you to, instead of apologizing and backtracking, you march forwards.
Right.
Yep.
Well, and, you know, I realized from a very early age, and when I started, that I was, and I really, not to be self-righteous, but I joined politics for the right reasons. A lot of people get into this stuff, become career politicians or career in commentary because they want to be famous, they want to get rich. I was always just passionate about politics. I love the country, and I went where the truth led me, and I never looked back. And there was always something in me where I said, if people don't want to associate with me because of politics, then they're not good people. I didn't think you're either a super boring person or you're a very shallow person, or you're just not that interesting. I'm interested in the people that break the rules, and have something different to say. So it was never a huge loss. I mean, it's more difficult this way, but I feel like in the long run, I think you'd probably agree, it's more rewarding because you meet a lot of good
way
people.
more rewarding. But I was also in a situation where I was already extremely popular, so no one really wanted to disassociate with me. So I can still walk through all those scenes. Guys know they can't really ostracize me that easy. So I can still cruise through these things. People still want me. Maybe people that don't like me, they still think they can get something from me. So I haven't felt anywhere near the repercussions you have. So did you lose a lot of like personal friends, like in high school? And
all of them, yeah. I had, I had a friend group that I was with in high school. It's like 7 or 8 guys, and I was friends with them throughout the whole 4 years, and we were pretty close. And I was friends with them even through college, my first year.
I'm going to keep this going a little bit longer. This is a great starter pack because a lot of people ask me, well, why do you listen to Nick and all that? And I'm like, have you ever listened to him? Not one said that they listened. Maybe they heard some clips or something like that, but they never listened to his show. And this is a great starter pack. It's to like, who is he? How is, what's he like? Scotty says Nick doesn't seem like a bad guy though. There's nobody who listens to Nick there's people who disagree with him, but no one that I know of that listens to him and says, oh, I think this is a bad dude. Never heard it. Not from anybody who knows his show. It just takes 2 seconds to know if somebody watches it or not. Because if you only get your thoughts from the clips, then it's easy, because the show's not like the clips, so it's easy to tell who doesn't know or being disingenuous. So Scotty says, who cares what anyone does if they're not criminals? He's not even close to a criminal. Peaceful dude, never broken any type of line or law in that manner. Scotty says it's none of our business. Yeah, if you don't have to like him, but
my first and only year of college. But after I really started getting hit by the media, they completely disassociated. And to this day, I only speak to one of them.
do you think they believed it or think they were cowards?
Oh, they totally believed it. I'm sure some of them bought in. Some of them were cowards. It's kind of interesting. Half of them, they bought in because they bought into the propaganda. It was
strong propaganda against you.
Because killing people or being a mobster doesn't threaten the political interest. And therefore, the media, which is totally...
That part was where Jake Shields was talking about how I've associated with gangsters, mobsters, some of the worst people out there. I've done business with them or associated with them. Never got canceled or got any feedback or pushback. But talking to you, have never broken the law or anything like that. Never been to jail, peaceful dude, Catholic. I've gotten all kinds of hate. How do you explain that? And Nick's like, well, they don't challenge power. I challenge power. That's why.
Because killing people or being a mobster doesn't threaten the political interest. And therefore, the media, which is totally controlled, and these nonprofits...
by the same people.
Right. The whole thing, they're not coming after murderers, drug dealers, because that doesn't threaten the interest. And so, we really do live... People call it the Matrix. They talk about red pills. And what that's getting at fundamentally is that the world is a little bit more designed than we think it is. That's really... To get to the fundamental premise, the simplest form.
Let's go to the feud with Ben Shapiro, then I'm going to get to Tim Pool, and I'll be out. Here's the feud with Ben Shapiro.
Number one beneficiary would be the black people.
Yeah.
The white people move away.
Yeah.
White people pay the property.
Yeah, they're the ones that are getting killed and hurt the most from a crime. I mean, it comes over and gets us too, but it gets them way more.
Totally.
So
the white people pay the property tax to live in a white neighborhood. They're the ones dying and being poor and, having hypertension. So...
Well, something that I always found funny, they say white people are racist when they move away from black people, but anytime a black guy gets money, they move away from black people.
That's right.
Look at the Obamas. They're always talking about racism and white flight. Oh, look where you are, the whitest neighborhood.
Of course.
Because it's very true.
Yeah, well, and if it's true, well, there's kind of an obvious inference that can be drawn. And I said, I noticed they never say anything critical about it. And Shapiro quote tweeted that. At that time, I had 1,000 followers. He had 1 million or something. And I'm 18. He quote tweets me on Christmas Eve. And he says, the surest sign that you're an anti-Semite is accusing a person of having dual loyalty. And I said, well, hang on a second. Obviously, people support Israel. Is that anti-Semitic to say that? When you look at the biggest proponents of foreign aid to Israel, or, you know, America supporting it, they're Jewish because it's the Jewish state of Israel. And like, that's very near and dear to their heart. Now, agree with it, don't agree with it.
So he's talking about how that whole thing started, and that the Daily Wire thing brings us back to Tim. So Tim Pool got involved with this because Jake Shields came out. I'm going to go to Tim Pool's timeline. Jake Shields came out and was like, hey, I had Nick on the show on YouTube. So Candace said, I can't have him on YouTube. Tim said, well, I got to have all these qualifications. I've got to hire security or all this stuff. That was just weird stuff he's saying. I can't have him on YouTube. And so Jake Shields like, wait a second. We just had him on YouTube. And then, so that's how it came up. Jake Shields, after this interview, said, and he wants to promote the interview too. So, you know, he knew he was going to be able to bait Tim into it. Tim Pool said if he had Nick Fuentes on, it would cost $100K in security, be unsafe for his Jewish employees, and he couldn't put it on YouTube. I had Nick Fuentes on, and I spent $0 on security. My Jewish employee really liked Nick, and I placed the episode on my YouTube. A lot of people say that Nick doesn't like Jewish people, and that's just, I don't even get into that conversation because that's not substantive. Who cares? But it's false. It's just blatantly false. That's not the position. The position is questioning power. And if I see someone's Jewish in power and they are pro-Israel, I'm going to highlight that and ask questions and we talk about it. I have no problem with that. So that's not hate. So I don't even get into that conversation though, because it's just all, what does it mean to hate somebody? It's all opinion. So, but the thing is, Jake, you are on the side of Nick and you heavily edit it. Okay, that's fair. But here's how Tim gets involved. He says, post it unedited. Then he posts again. He quote tweets it twice. Why is Tim involved with this? Just because someone says your name doesn't mean you have to get involved. Jake Shields, and Tim knows that. There's plenty of the whole thing with Eliza that blew up. He didn't even comment on it for a long time. Jake Shields got scared and edited a pre-recorded show before uploading. Tell the truth, Jake. So Tim, what is the point of that? So you're celebrating that he felt like he had to, YouTube didn't censor it. He felt like he had to censor himself in order to avoid getting struck down or deranked in the algorithm by YouTube. And Tim Pool celebrating that? I don't understand. Tim, the take is, do you want to have a conversation or not? They don't care what platform it's on. They don't care if it's on YouTube, on Spaces, on Rumble. You can have the conversation wherever you want to have the conversation. If you want to have a conversation, then you can have a conversation with them. The bottom line is, Tim, you don't want to have a conversation with them. That's fine. Just be honest about it. Don't lie about the Groypers. That got me heated. Where he basically said, he basically implied the Groypers threaten people or stuff like that. That's why I have to hire security. The same thing that the wackadoo liberal, neoliberal left says about his show when some idiot allegedly watches his show and does something bad. Oh, they watched the Tim Pool show. So it's just really, really low to go that route. And that's what Tim's done. That's what the 100,000K in security comment was about. What is really happening here is Tim can't have Nick on, because if Tim has Nick on, he loses access. And it's not even about YouTube. Tim had Ye on for a live conversation on YouTube. So it's not about YouTube. And Nick was there, but it wasn't for Nick. It was about Ye. Nick wasn't going to really talk much. It was going to be Ye, just like Ye was doing it with, I don't think Nick said much at all in the Alex Jones. Tim knows that Nick Fuentes is at a different level intellectually than Ye. That's not a diss to Ye. Nick Fuentes is on a different level intellectually than me. If I have these, I'm not afraid of these conversations at all. I just don't get into areas I'm not familiar with. You can criticize me for not getting familiar. I think that's fair, but that doesn't change. If I'm not familiar with it, I don't get into it. But I think the bigger thing is I'm just not afraid to have the conversations. Candace Owens, the problem with her is she's kind of like on the journey like I am. She's not very knowledgeable here, but she didn't bring Nick into the Twitter spaces. And then people are like, why? And her answer is disingenuous. That means she's afraid of the conversation. I ain't afraid of no conversation. We have the conversation. It's very interesting. I like to learn. I'll take notes and look it up and formulate my thoughts through time. This isn't an issue. The JQ is not an issue I've been researching for years. A lot of the political stuff, I've been following politics for a long time. So I just need to kind of find out what's going on now. I have memories from, growing up and all that. I haven't even touched on the JQ until maybe right when I first did a stream with Ignoramus. And what's that, 2 years ago? So I haven't really dug into it. And the reason why is, I just haven't read a lot. I've watched some of these movies and documentaries. I haven't read a lot. It takes me a while to absorb stuff. And then also, I'm more concerned about Zionists because there's a lot of Christian and Catholic Zionists that are worse than anybody Jewish. So I don't really get too much into the JQ. It's just not my lane to get that deep into it. But I will talk about how it's weird that if you say the J team is good with money, they acquire power well, and they are very proud of their ethno state, that somehow that's some type of hateful trope. We'll try. What about eating watermelons? What about wiping your ass with your hand in India or something like that? I mean, that's what is hateful. Things that I wish I was great with money. I wish I was able to acquire power, and I wish that our country had as much love for our country, the United States, as the J team does for their, not everyone, but you can generally say it is a J state that they have for their ethnic country, that they value that over America. Those are all positive traits. That's the Tommy Sotomayor rant. He's like, what? That's the trope is basically giving you credit for acquiring power? What the hell? And not that it would matter if it was mean or not, but it just makes it weird. So, but I will talk about that kind of stuff. But as far as like the history and all that, I don't have the recall like that. I have to look it up and that. So I stay within my lane. So Tim Pool, he's not staying within his lane. Tim is a debate bro at heart. He knows to have the position he needs to take, if he has Nick on, he can't win. He can't look good in that discussion. That's why Tim said, well, I have to have somebody out to contradict Nick. That was weird for him to say. Why? Because if he doesn't contradict Nick, he loses access to the Trump team. He loses access to the Daily Wire. Who knows what else he loses access to? I don't blame him for that. That's his platform. He worked hard for it. Just be honest about it. Don't lie about this. Don't lie about the Groypers. Don't twist it into a pro-censorship angle. Just say, that's not my lane. I do this. I only want to focus on YouTube. I don't care about spaces. I don't do spaces. Candace can't use that because she just did a space. So she tried to use that. Well, why would I do Nick on a different platform? B, you just did a Twitter Spaces on a different platform than YouTube. So she's being completely squirmish and disingenuous. Tim, just be honest. You got employees. I support Tim's show. I don't want Tim to have Nick on and fall apart because of it afterwards. And Nick is respectful. Nick doesn't go, you've never seen Nick go on someone else's podcast and break the rules that they've set forth. It's never happened. Look it up. It's never happened. Never, ever, not even close. He's a gentleman on anybody's platform. So that's not even a thing. That's not even a concern. You have him on. If something like, oh, you not even that Nick said anything wrong, but just Daily Wire, they're bitch made, Eddie, maybe even Crowder, who knows? Who knows what all connections fall apart because you have Nick on? Who knows if they start messing with your banking because you had Nick on? So if Tim said, guys, the JQ just not my lane. If you guys want to talk about it, talk about it. I fully support it. I hate to say I got mouths to feed, but in that way, I'm just being loose with it because I don't mean to be disrespectful to any employees of Timcast. Love Timcast. But I got a company and mouths to feed. It's not worth it for me. I would have had no problem There's no retort to that. It's an honest answer. I agree with you, and we keep it moving. Not this bullshit where, oh, you had to edit the piece. Well, what? He had to edit it because we're on a Mossad platform. A Mossad-connected, CIA-connected, deep state and administrative state connected platform unconstitutionally that will strike down the video, flag the video, derank the video. So you're celebrating that? To defend yourself because you don't want to have a conversation? That doesn't work for me. That's what it's really, when Tim is ducking this conversation, that's what it's really about. If it's not about that, how about this? One of the things that really bothers me about the Nick conversation is that he is great outside of the JQ. He's a political guy. His shows, nowadays he barely even talks about it on his show. If I'm wrong, Tim, here's to prove me wrong, I bet my wallet Nick would say yes. If Tim said, no JQ, you're doing this Groyper Wars thing, tell me about it, let's talk about it. I guarantee you Nick would go on to promote like, hey, there's only 3 demands, no wars, tell us that you're not going to start a war with Iran, immigration, deportation, not enough, moratorium, end all of immigration right now till we figure out what the hell's going on, fire Chris LaCivita and Susie Wiles. That's it. Those are the only demands from the Groyper War. The Groyper War has nothing to do with the JQ. I've seen people lying about it online. It had nothing to do with that. Nothing. That's not in it. You can say indirectly with the no wars in the Middle East, but it doesn't say anything about Israel or Jewish people in that. So if you're really authentic about having a discussion, say, Nick, you can come on. The JQ is just too dicey. You saw how your boy had to edit it. Let's talk about the Groyper War, though. No JQ. Why wouldn't he do that? Oh, why? Because he would lose all access immediately. As soon as they heard that he even talked to Nick about it, no calls returned to get Don Jr. back on the show and Cash Patel back and Peter Navarro back and Steve Bannon back, and maybe Steve Bannon would still do it. But the Trump org, none of them would go on the show. It would be over. Access done. No Mar-a-Lago. None of that. Even worse, you would have a political enemy. Why wouldn't you do that? That'd be a great show. Nick's one of the greatest in the political landscape. Political talking head, insider information, all that connected, best in the business. Take the JQ out of it. Nick is still the best in the business. Why wouldn't you do that? Because it's not about the JQ. It's not about YouTube. It's about your access. I'm not happy about it. Just very disappointed to see people just be real. That's all. You don't even have to say Daily Wire, none of that. We know what's happening. Just be real. If I were in that position, I'd be like, hey guys, the block is hot. I'm not ready to put my toe in that. If you guys want to talk about it, do it. I work so hard. I've been grinding. I got this. I got businesses. Man, you can call me a coward. I am. Just be honest about it. Nobody's going to knock you for that. There's no reason to lie about it. There's no reason to be pro-censorship. There's no reason to say this bullshit about the Groypers. Don't do that. Just be real. That's all I ask. CHX37 says, I don't blame you for not getting to the JQ, but the JQ is the main. Here's my thing. I don't know how to explain it. I'm fine. I'll have somebody on. If I could have Nick on, I have Nick on and talk about the JQ. There would be more about him educating me. Very similar to having friend of the show Carlos, Prime Animations on. And we talked about these. We basically the JQ, but we talked about was Jesus Jewish and all that. And I'm not knowledgeable on the Bible, so it's not a debate or anything. It's like adults talking. A guy I respect at the highest level saying, here's what the context is. Here's why this is okay, or why I think this is okay or not, or here's the biblical take on it. I'm fine with getting into the JQ as far as bringing in whoever, Jake Shields and Dan Blazarian or whoever. I don't care who. I'm not that big, but whoever is on my level that wants to talk about it. But what I'm saying is I can't contribute because I'm not knowledgeable enough. So just to be clear, I'm not afraid to get into the JQ. The JQ is an issue we need to get into. I have no problem with that. The U.S. got suckered into World War I because of the J. See, I haven't seen the World War II one. I'm a little bit more familiar with the World War I one. I have to go back and read on. We just spent $15 trillion on wars for Israel, a huge part of debt. Absolutely, I agree completely with that. I'm 100% in agreement there. Ray's gonna rave the Trump flag. He was on there with Adam Francisco. I was watching the video earlier. They're on the streets. That was cool, man. They're on the streets waving the flag, and you just saw the reactions and stuff like that. But Adam Francisco is one of the best on the streets, man, in Florida. Okay, good. See, people, this is the type of, I don't know if you're a groiper or not, or consider yourself one, but this is the kind of conversation I have with the groipers. Well, they'll say, hey, and that's what they were doing, Candace. They were like, Candace, you're kind of twisting this into this Franksist thing, and that's not what it is. Here's the feedback. When you did your Twitter spaces, you had this guy on here who just does nothing but fast talking, debate, bro, nonsense, and you didn't have anybody. It doesn't even have to be Nick. Somebody else who's knowledgeable. I don't even know everybody who's knowledgeable in that space. I mean, it's a dangerous space. I don't know who it'd be. Stu, I don't know who. But you didn't have a good counterpoint on. That's very nice. I appreciate you. CHX says, good introduction, 100 reasons. Leo Frank is guilty, shows the deception. Okay, I'll have to read that. I haven't read that. I mean, I'm not well read on the topic. So I say have on Osiris with Nick. Yeah, I mean, but if we're going to do that, we have to do it with Iggy. We got to do it with the crew. If we're able to do that, but I don't need that. I'm just saying I'm open to the conversation. Everybody plays a role. We can clip stuff up. I can tell people, hey, I listen to the show. It's not what you think. You tell me. See, nobody talks substantively about the show. Like, do you listen to it at all, or what? Nobody talks substance with them. Ryan Dawson is one. I've seen a lot of beef going back with Ryan Dawson and other people. I don't know what that means, but that's the first thing that came to mind. I've seen his tweets, but I don't know what he does. Ray's definitely anti-Nick. I don't blame you. It's just not everybody's cup of tea. Everybody's not for everybody. Yeah, but I'm gonna go out. I gotta make sure the kids cleaned up, man. They got to do their chores, and I got to do my stuff too. But I appreciate everybody. We did the live. I've rebranded a couple channels. So I've rebranded because Nick was talking about noticing in that clip, and I was like, oh, okay. I rebranded what the Middle Mega Clip channel is now rebranded as Noticing. So I'm gonna be doing that. And I'm going to be putting like these type of the JQ conversations in there, all that stuff on the other channel. So let me go here. Let me share my screen. So it's AI, so it's misspelled, but it basically has it. I'm a big X-Files fan from back in the day. Noticing, if you see that, that's from me. I'm going to put the more, I don't know, the more salacious conversations on there. Anything about Israel is going to go on there, and that will be the Noticing. And here will be mostly your Kamala Harris and your whatever, your straight up politics. And then I rebranded the Tim Pool after show to just the after show, where I'll do some, if I have time to do reaction to kind of like commentators. Those videos were getting way more views, but that's not what I'm passionate about. So if I have one of those, like the Tim Pool one, I'll take this clip and put it on that show, not this one. So I appreciate you all. Have a great Sunday, and going into Labor Day, I'm out.